Hello, hello. Alright, so now we're going to try Mechagon. I'm marking all of the bots so we know which one's which. The square is the melee bot, triangle is the middle bot, circle is the range bot. Try to keep that consistent in every run. So right now my positioning, I'm trying to stay away from all the swirlies. I saw one of the bots got gooped, the melee one specifically, so that's why I ran to the bot. So now it's the pull-in. And you'll notice with the pull-in, I don't always go to the bot. That's because you don't have to. As long as none of the green slime touches you, you actually don't need to be next to a bot. Kind of the same with the toxic wave, but it works in the other direction. As long as there's a bot between you and the wave, you'll be fine, because the bot makes it so none of the wave continues. So, something I constantly think about during this fight is what is happening next. So, the order will always go splatter, the pull in, splatter, and then the wave. So I constantly am keeping track of that in my mind. So I knew it was the pull in. So I got into a situation where it wouldn't affect me. And I was able to spam heal the whole time because I was far enough away from the boss. I want to get pulled into him. Now here, a lot of people got slimed, and I had to pop a lot of healing to get everybody out of it. But we got there. It was almost a wipe, but we ended up doing it because of my positioning, and I was able to spam heal during the pull-in. So now I pop Lust because I feel pretty confident about this pool. We're at roughly 55%. I feel like we got this as long as everybody stays alive. So now I'm positioning in the bot. Now I'm going to move away and try to keep everybody above 50%, but try not to spam too much because I am running really low on mana. I still have my mana pot though, and I just used my mana cooldown, so I'm pretty fine. So now, following the bot through the wave, and Granny gets scooped, but it's fine, we get her out pretty fast. At this point, I'm now thinking, how do I want to use my cooldowns? I am very low at mana. I want to keep everyone alive. I pop my big cooldown here. It hits a few people, balances out some health. And I'm thinking, okay, after this, I'm going to drink some mana. I get Cloud up a little bit more, and then start replenishing my mana. I know Cloud, he's very good at using defensives when he's low. I don't have to worry about him that much. So I popped the replenishment, get about 10-15% of my mana back, which helps a lot because otherwise I'd be basically the rest of this fight. So rest of the fight is gonna go like throughout the order of splatter, pull in, splatter, wave. So I'm just trying to keep my eye on everything. I know the pull in is next, so I'm positioning myself where it won't affect me. So you can see now I'm far enough away, as well as none of the goop was close to me, so I was fine. Didn't even have to go next to a bot. The boss is almost dead, and we did it, guys. Alright, so this fight's going to show a lot of examples of good and bad positioning, and we'll get into that as this fight goes on. For now, we're just prepping for the fight. I marked Trixie and Nano, so we know where they are, can easily see the difference between them, and that way, you know, when he goes on his bike, everybody can easily switch over. And I personally like having them marked for that reason. As we're going into this fight, I'm thinking, okay, where is he gonna go? So we see he's going straight down the middle. And so I try to position myself and plan accordingly if other people aren't. So I placed my cooldown. I thought Cloud was going to get hit, but he was actually out of the way. And now I have to be very careful of Nano because Nano has a frontal cleave, which hurts a lot, and Roadkill. Is the one that dashes, and then the other one, Bolt Buster, which he's casting right now, is the one that does the huge AoE in front of him. Both of those you have to be very careful for because they do a ton of damage. So I'm helping interrupting, but sometimes I interrupt the same time Nervy or Cloud does. So I need to get better at that. I'm not used to being able to interrupt on a healer since Shaman are the only ones with that possibility. But I think it helped a lot in this fight with the amount of damage that was going out, especially since I'm not as comfortable on this healer. So I knew that the boss was coming towards me, so I got out of the way. I wasn't quite sure if he would make it, but it turns out he would have if I didn't dodge. And I'm trying to keep my eye on Nano whenever he's on the bike and focus on just staying out of his way. So this fight in general has a ton of damage output, so I'm trying to stagger a lot of my big cooldowns for when Nano's off of his bike, because that's when the damage happens the most. When he's on the bike, the damage isn't as bad, but when he's off the bike, damage gets pretty crazy pretty fast. So I try to plan all my major cooldowns according to that. So I'll tend to use my totem there. I just used Ascendance there. Um, and the downtime is kind of when Trixie's out. So that's when I'll right now I'm getting ready to use a potion to get mana back. I'm seeing where he's going, so I know I'm out of the way when he's dashing. Getting most of my mana back. Nervy's low, so I have to heal him. He actually got stunned because the cloud disappeared right as he got in, right when it hit him, which was super unfortunate, not his fault. But I get everybody topped back up, and now it's just kind of seeing who has Megatase, knowing I can't heal the person when they're in the fog, so I'm focusing my healing on other people, and then as they get out of the fog, I'll throw heals on them. Fight's getting pretty close to the end. I'm very which is kind of a sign that I'm really not comfortable with this healer yet. I spam way more than I need to. I accidentally almost run into Nano, but I get out of the way. But the next time I'm not so fortunate because I didn't happen to see that. I thought he was going diagonally. Turns out he went straight at me and I die. But we end up finishing the fight anyway. So that goes to show, I stopped looking at Nano. As soon as I stopped looking at him, I got hit and died. What I should have done differently was try to stay alive. Literally, the only thing that could have killed me at that point was him on the bike. And I stopped looking at him while he was on the bike. So that was 100% my fault. Next time, I'll pay more attention, especially when I'm on a character I'm not as comfortable with. But we end up getting the fight anyway, thanks to Granny and Belle. I got a punch card I will probably never use. We'll see. I don't even have that trinket on this tune. Alright, so next fight's gonna be the King. Alright, so I like to prep this fight by putting out the markers. The pylons I think are the most important. I know you can also get the bot. I usually get the bot if all the pylons are taken, or if somebody doesn't get the electric charge, I get their pylon. For the most part, I think we do this fight pretty well. We'll notice in this fight, I'm way squishier than I thought I was, and that is going to be a theme throughout the rest of this dungeon, is I am very squishy on this tune. So for this fight, I'm focusing on which phase it is, if it's the rubble phase, or the electric phase, or the ab phase. The rubble phase is by far the most damage output, especially if you get hit by the brown swirlies that are littered everywhere. You really don't want to get hit by those. The second most damaging part is the electric phase. It does a ton of damage. As we'll see, it actually kills me later because I'm not high enough health. So it's about to hit the electric phase. That happens whenever he gets to 100 energy. So he's at 100 energy now, does electric. I'm about 90%. I get hit by that, hit by a trog, and I die. Luckily, Cloud still had his B-Res, so he was able to get me up, and we could continue the fight. So right now, I'm just looking, waiting for the B-Res. The reason the B-Res hasn't happened yet is because for a Guardian Druid, it actually costs Rage. And I don't think Cloud had enough Rage until this point in order to do it. So now I take the B-Res and I'm going to see which ones need to be done. All of them were done, so I got the robot. And then he's going to do a spin thing throughout the thing and kill a lot of the trucks before they even get to the electricity. So it's super useful. And I don't know if it hits the boss, but I'd like to think it does. So now I popped a really big cooldown during that phase because there was a lot of damage going out. I try to stay next to my crystals, but I'm not used to using it yet, so sometimes I'll ignore them or they're not in a good position, so I won't worry about it. So this time I just went straight for the bot. I saw everybody got hit, and so I was fairly confident I could just go for the bot. The electricity does damage over time, so I don't want to sit with it too long. Now here, I'm basically just positioning myself next to the boss for when the electric slam happens, but not so I'm not too far away that I don't get hit by it. I'm not too close that other issues would arise. So Nervy actually got knocked into the bot here. So I ended up picking his up, and that's why I say I can just pick up, like, if somebody else doesn't get theirs, I'd be able to get it. We ended up getting the robot and it, so that's super useful. Now, I'm just popping a lot of AoE healing because I know there's going to be another charge slam. And this time I position myself where I'll get knocked back into the bot, so that way nobody else has to worry about losing theirs because of it. And we end up finishing the fight pretty easily here. I mean, we all know this fight really well. It's probably the easiest fight in Mechagon. I just wasn't expecting to get bodied earlier. So now, the moment I've kind of been dreading, the Tank Buster. With me and Cloud both on alts, and this being basically a tank and heal check, I was very worried about this fight. Didn't end up being as bad as I thought it would be, but it was quite difficult because we're both not as used to these characters as our mains, and this being a very high damage output fight for the tank. So I'm going to start off by just avoiding as much damage as I can and getting out of the swirlies when they pop on me and just focus on keeping Cloud at a healthy HP, so that way if he happens to not have a good defensive, he would at least have enough HP to maybe survive. I popped my slow totem on those bots just to keep them further away. Cloud ends up rooting them, which is perfect. They blow up over there, we don't have to deal with it. So now I'm just focus healing Cloud because it really is a ton of damage that happens during wreck. Whenever you see wreck, just look at Cloud's health bar and you will see it drop to like 20% almost every time. Here I noticed that the electric spawned on this side, so I told everybody we got across safely. So now we're at the maze. This maze really sucks because it is very deceptive. The electric fields on the ground actually last a little bit longer, like half a second, more than it shows. So you can actually get stunned by it, even if it doesn't look like it should stun you. And these beams that are circling around will also hit you when it doesn't look like they should. At the end, it looks like it tapers a bit, but it's actually the same width all the way down. So it's very deceptive on the hitbox at the end of it. So I really like this spot here because it allows me to go behind the bot and just continue channeling. Now I can stay here the whole duration that the bot has to go around. So now we're running down and we're popping big offensive cooldowns. We want to pop almost everything here and burn the boss down. If I had Lust, I would use it. I really should use Earth Elemental, but I decided to save it in case we needed it for the Tank Buster. So we burning this boss down, and he takes 200% damage during this phase until Haywire is done. So now when he's lifting off, we want Melee to get away from it, and you can still DPS him, but once he's in the air, he takes no damage anymore. So now I'm just positioning myself over here again. We see that these bots spawn in kind of a weird situation. Cloud gets 2 of them, which is perfect. The other one was far enough away that it won't affect us. I'm going to pop a big cooldown here just to keep everyone topped off because the bot is getting close. So I want to make sure that we're okay, even if it explodes. So now we're just kind of keeping Cloud at a healthy life total while dealing with these ads. So I pop a slow totem here, and then Granny ice traps it, which is amazing. It buys us enough time that these bots won't affect us, and we can actually kite them pretty well. So now we're going kind of towards the middle of the room, which is okay. I would have preferred staying back because the next phase is going to happen behind us, and we're kind of moving to the other side. Like, this would be a good idea if we knew the platform was going to be electrocuted on this side, but we know it's going to be on the other side. I popped my really big cooldown there in order to disperse health during that wreck, because I know at this point Cloud probably doesn't have a good cooldown for it, considering his cooldowns are very long usually, at least his really good ones. So I did that just to even out the health and make sure we all survive. So now we're making our way to the other maze. Now, something that helps me a lot during the maze is just to take it slow. Like, don't rush it and don't feel like you need to rush. So I tend to make sure, like, 100% I'll get through. So, as you see, I got across the electric. I got across here. Now I'm clicking. This is basically the same kind of spot. You could do either spot, really. Here, they were kind of overlapping. I don't really trust myself, so I ran over to the other side. And I know they're not going to overlap here because they're far enough away. Nervy got teleported down, but I think I told him it's fine. It's better for him to be down there when it's low percentage than up here and have to sprint all the way down. I think it's going to be a good rule of thumb for DPS to go down around 30, so that way you guys are ready to go for the boss and you're down there ASAP. So now we're on the final burn phase. This is really easy. We just DPS him the rest of the way down. Not really much else to say on this fight. What I'm thinking about during the entire fight is staying careful and avoiding as much of the damage as I possibly can because I know it's a very high healing fight. Tussle Tonks is pretty much all about positioning. I have to make sure I am close to everyone, which is really hard during this fight. I have to make sure everybody stays at a decent health pool, and I have to make sure I'm far enough away from both of the robots, because they both do good AoE, but close enough to heal everybody, which can be quite difficult in certain situations. As we'll see in this video, I don't do the best job. Also, he just threw me across the room for no reason. So now we see that the fire is happening from the No Mercy for You, so I try to get away from it and heal everybody. I tried using my heal while moving to help position myself, but it's really hard with all the AoE. Now this guy is trying to AoE me, and he constantly tries to attack me because my healing aggro at this point is stronger than Cloud's tank aggro, because you can't really do a lot of damage to him because of the buff that he has. So I'm kind of forced to kite him a little bit too. And this fight is a mess as a healer. You have to avoid the bombs on the ground, you have to avoid the fire, you have to avoid the spin, and you have to avoid the saw blades. So I pop a big cooldown here and just decide to tank it. I don't want to risk it. Something else I have to constantly be aware of in this fight is where everybody is, because especially as a shaman healer, if I, like for example, Granny's right or to my left and Cloud's to my right. So if I chain healed Granny, it wouldn't heal anybody else. But if I chain healed Nervy, it would at least bounce to Bella. Well, not right now because he's a little far away, but you get the gist. So I have to be very careful on where I'm positioning on my cooldowns. Now there, I got knocked into the boss, so I just popped another big cooldown. Not risk it. I was probably going to die if I didn't pop it, especially with how squishy my shaman is. So I just pop it. Now this guy's going to punch me, so I ghost wolf away. Now I'm just trying to keep everyone topped off while running from everything, which is kind of this entire fight. It's trying to find a good way to just position yourself is hard in this fight because almost nowhere is safe. Now, things that I'm thinking about during this fight are where is everything coming from, right? So when the saw blades happen, where are they going to go? When the Tonk is charging, where is it going? Where is the pummeler so I'm not in the spin? And I keep an eye on him most of the time just because I never know when he's chasing me. So I need to keep that in mind. Then I need to know where the bombs spawn so I can be careful of those. I try to position myself so if I get knocked back I won't fall into them, but that doesn't always work out. Because some of the knockbacks are very weird and they don't knock you quite where you think they will. The rest of this fight is pretty simple. We just kill the pummeler. The pummeler does a ton of damage to the tank, so I'm mostly focused on keeping him alive. It's why I used a mana pot even though we're only on him, because you'll see Cloud gets low a lot when it's just the pummeler, and we need to be able to kill him. The pummeler, every time one of his stacks falls off, he gets movement speed. So when he loses all three stacks, you actually can't kite him anymore. He's going to be as fast or faster than you. So it's all about just healing and keeping the tank alive. At this point, he's been hit by all four. And we're just trying to burn him down and make sure he dies, but Cloud doesn't. If Cloud dies, it's pretty much a wipe because he does too much damage. We wouldn't be able to kill him, and nobody really has good threat generation on him, so he'd constantly be switching between us, even if we were to kite him, because the person kiting him can't do damage, can't build threat. Somebody else is going to build threat and get hit, and it's just going to be a cycle until we probably will all die. We saw that earlier when on a previous attempt, that exact thing happened. We were just on him, but we couldn't finish off the fight because he kept switching aggro, and we all eventually just died. Up next is Cujo. Now, this fight is very simple, so I probably won't go over everything, but there are some key healer tips I can give during this fight that I feel help a lot. Now, I popped Lust here just because I could. I figured we probably would get Lust back by the next boss anyway with the rate that we were running this, and it's probably better to get it over with. So I Dispel Cloud, and then we all run towards the box. Cloud almost dies here. It gets really close. He tries to, I believe, stag form, but we can't in here, which is unfortunate. Now, with Cujo, he's going to apply a debuff called Blazing Chomp. This debuff can be dispelled twice before Venting Flame happens, except for the first time. The first time you dispel and then Venting Flame, but every time after that, um, after the dispel, he'll cast Venting Flame. So as you saw there, I dispelled and then Venting Flame. So I usually call it out right when the dispel is happening, so everybody has that second longer that they can react and get to the box. Now, we all want to get away from the box again, and the box can fall on anybody, so melee or ranged. So it's really important to not go on the boss directly, or if the box falls in melee, to get the boss away ASAP. So again, this is the second dispel, so I call for Venting Flame. Everybody gets behind the box, and it's rinse and repeat the rest of the fight. You know, every second dispel, it's going to be Venting Flame, and I can call that out pretty easily since I'm the one dispelling. I pop Earth Heli here for a little bit of extra DPS. I know I'm running low on mana, and the rate he's losing health, I'd beat way before the boss is dead. Things I like to keep in mind during this boss is, where is the box? How many times have I dispelled? And if he's casting Venting Flame, am I close enough to the box to get there in time? I'm pretty much cycling through these thoughts and making sure I'm not too far away from the box that I can't get to it. I'm not too close to the box that I will ruin it by him jumping on it. And I'm making sure I'm counting. I know it's only 2 dispels, but I make sure to count them anyway, because it's a long fight. It can drag out. I might dispel once thinking it's twice, and then, you know, if I'm not counting, that might cause issues. We might go to the box before we have to. He might ruin the box, and then we wipe. So I make sure to always keep track of how many we have. Here I get mana. Cloud dies, which is super unfortunate because I was getting mana during that time. I focus all my healing onto Belle, because Belle's the new tank, and try to keep her alive best I can while still going to Venting Flames. Luckily, I noticed that he doesn't chomp or Blazing Chomp anybody that's not the tank. So it actually made my job a little easier because I don't have to spend time to dispel, and I don't have to heal the AoE damage that it causes, which was a fortunate side effect of Cloud dying. Not saying he should die, but it was not nearly as bad as it should have been. Then we end up cleaning up the fight. Bella pops a health potion to keep herself alive, and I believe Nerby just stays out there and kills him with his cloak. And now we're doing this very much a cluster of a fight. There's a ton of stuff we have to watch out for in this fight. We have to kill the plants ASAP because, as you see, they are destroying my health bar. We have to avoid all of the gears that are spinning on the ground. And most importantly, we have to avoid this fire. This fire, if you get hit by it multiple times, will kill you, and there's nothing. I can't out heal it. It's too much damage. So this plant stays up a lot longer than it should. The plant should be priority over the boss when it's up, so everybody should switch to it, make sure it dies, because it will target somebody and just constantly barrage them until it's dead, and it does a ton of damage. As you will see throughout this fight, like, you can see it right now, it's destroying me. So what I'm thinking about is I'm not focusing as much on the gears as I should. And the reason for that is I'm trying to call everything out, and micromanaging the gears with all of that I found to be a little too much. So I'm trying to call out when the plant spawns, where the plant is when the fire is about to spawn, as well as keeping everybody alive, avoiding the discombobulator, and trying to, if somebody gets hit by it, dispel them as quickly as I can, because it will be death if they stay CC'd by it for too long. Pretty soon here, we are going to see some unfortunate things occur. So, as you see, I'm very low on mana already, and the boss isn't even at a third of his health. And here, Bella gets hit by two of the flames and ends up. I can't heal her. I almost die myself. I end up barely surviving because I healed while moving. I pop a big cooldown here and decided it's the best time to get mana. Um, Best time is when everybody is going to be okay because of my big cooldown. So I lined those up, got enough mana back to hopefully finish off the fight. I pop Earth Ellie here for extra damage. I don't think we would make it without the extra damage. So, and I'm glad I did. This was a very, very close fight. Any extra damage helped, and it really did go a long way. So I'm continuing to dodge the lasers, dodge the swirlies, dodge the gears, and it's a lot to dodge. Here I kind of just run into gears. I'm focused on health bars. Everybody's getting low. Granny just died. And now it's just me, Nervy, and Cloud. I'm at about 10% of my mana, and I am taking a lot of damage. Cloud's taking a lot of damage. We're trying to get this done. The plant is up. The plant is just attacking Cloud, but at this point we don't really have anybody to take care of the plant, so I'm just trying to heal everybody the best that I can. At this point, really, we should stay on the boss because he is so low. I try to keep Cloud up, but eventually I just don't have the mana to keep him up, and he ends up dying. See, he dies there, and then I die immediately after, and it's up to Nervy. Nervy's really low, but the boss is also really low. And Nervy ends up getting the victory and saving us from a very horrible 1.0% wipe. It would have been awful. So now, King Mechagon. And honestly, this fight was really hard on my shaman. His Gigazap literally does 80% of my health. I got hit by it there, 80% of my health. If I'm missing any health, it's basically a one shot for me, which is super scary because later on in the fight, you'll notice I have to, if I get hit by an orb and the zap, I'm dead. So right now I'm trying to position myself where nobody is in front of me or behind me, because Gigazap will go through people and it puts a debuff on you if it does. Now for liftoff, I like to pop a big cooldown each liftoff. It does a ton of damage, so being able to mitigate it through a big cooldown is helpful. So there I used Healing Tide, and then I used my mana cooldown to get mana back, because if I don't, I won't be able to use the mana cooldown 3 times in this fight, and I really need it 3 times in this fight. This is a 6-minute fight. It is very long. So now we're at the second cutting beam, and I decided to just pop my big cooldown here, since everybody was pretty much stacked up and we were kind of against a wall. I thought it would be the best opportunity to get that cooldown off and mitigate as much of the damage as I could. So again, I'm positioning myself. If you notice, absolutely nobody is in front of me and nobody is behind me. So it helps a lot. And how I can tell if people are behind me is I know Granny is the only range, and I can see her arrows flying across my screen. So I know where she is in comparison to me. If her arrows were going through me, that means she's directly behind me. And you can do this with any ranged DPS. They have a projectile you can see. So if you saw a Wrath go through, you know a Druid's behind you, or a Shadow Bolt, you would know a Warlock's behind you. So it's a very good idea to position yourself based on that. Now, I'm just trying my best to stay away from all the Giga Zaps because I know how much it hurts. We kill the boss. I find on this boss specifically that using the mana pot right after phase 1 is the best opportunity I have to ever use it in this fight. As you can see, I can pretty much get the whole thing off and get my mana bar up to about 70%. So now in phase 2, I try my best to call out all the orbs and Giga Zaps. The Giga Zaps are more important, so I'll usually call those out over the orbs. And Nervy and Bell do a great job juggling that corner, making sure that the Giga Zap doesn't kill them, because it is quite a lot. Now the Electro Arm, I saw it be thrown behind me. If you look at when Mega Arm is cast, you can see it go across the screen, and it'll give you a rough idea of where it is. So sometimes they'll say it's over by Granny, and that's because I saw it be thrown in that direction. Usually I don't know how far or close it'll be thrown, but I do know that it is in that direction, and I can call that out, and then Granny is more aware, or I could call it out in the other direction, and then somebody else would be more aware if it was over there. And I've noticed that Gigazap happens twice before whatever the second attack is. So in the first phase, it was liftoff. So he'll Gigazap twice and then liftoff. And then here, he Gigazaps twice before Mechano Arm, or Magneto Arm, whatever it's called. So right here, Magneto Arm spawns right next to me. So I pop everything I can to get away. I Ghost Wolf to get a bit of distance, and then I popped my ability to let me heal while moving, so I could continue to heal myself while running away. If I didn't do that, I was most likely dead, because I would have been too close to the arm, and it would have just destroyed my health bar. So now I'm just trying to stay safe, stay alive. Unfortunately, Belle just got knocked off the edge, and she barely got hit by the orb, so it's very unfortunate that she ended up off the edge. But stuff like that happens. So just in case, because I know the fight's getting low, I put down my totem that'll res somebody if they die within it. So that's what that like bluish circle is around where Cloud is. That is purely just a, in case something happens, we have a B-res. So I continue to call out where the magnet arm is. I run in a direction. I make sure I'm avoiding the orbs as they're walking or being pulled past me. And now I pop Earth Elemental again just to make sure more damage is done. And just kind of top everybody off, keep everyone alive, and keep avoiding the orbs. If you notice, you can kind of see where they're going to go. There's a swirly on the ground, and then they all have arrows. So as long as you're not in the direction of any of the arrows, I would focus on the arrows more than the swirlies, to be honest. So as long as none of the arrows are facing towards you, you're good. So now I see King Mechagon's down. I know fight's over. We did an amazing job, and this was a really, really satisfying victory.